Welcome to the audio experience of KimberlySueIverson.com, a redhead rewriting reality and multi-genre author. I am your host, Kimberly Sue Iverson, and today I'll be sharing with you a story that's close to my heart. If you prefer to read along or explore more stories, visit my website at KimberlySueIverson.com. This audio experience is for an adult audience. Themes and topics may not be appropriate or suitable for all audiences, so listener and viewer discretion is advised. Now, get yourself comfy as we dive into today's tale. Upped her game. Kendra has upped her game. I mentioned last week in my recent post that Kendra has gotten to the point she wanders a lot. That she woke me up at 4 a.m. last week because she wanted to get up and nothing could settle her back down. Well, she upped her game. Last night, like most of the past week's nights, she got me up around 2 a.m. Same reason. I woke up to leaping dogs. This time, because we're having a heat wave, I love it so much. They are usually on the floor sleeping, since my floor has linoleum. They have to hop up from their sleeping position and run, because Kendra walks on top of them in their space. Her little mind program goes glitchy when she begins to move, like in my story, Mr. Finkel's Grave Error. And it's like she knows what to do, but the program in her mind glitches, so she circles and bounces into things before it goes, oh, right, which is why the others get walked on. Also, with her sight issues, that will cause issue. I say her mind will only glitch because if I say, come over here and I'll give you something to eat, she knows her program functions and she walks to the dining room on her own before I'm there. The program knows, oh, this I got right now. When I got jerked out of sleep last night, I grabbed the phone and saw it say 2 a.m. Almost there at least. That's not the first time she did it in the past week. I let her out the first night she did it with the intention to lay down a minute and go back to find her, then put her back in her room. Well, I passed out for a while. Don't know what time I woke up, but I found her and brought her back to her bed in my room. And she got right back up, so I went, okay, I'm done. Then let her out and shut the door, then went back to sleep until I was woke by Mila or Chewbacca around 6 a.m. Most of the nights I'm lucky to get to bed before midnight or 1 a.m. For me, that's beyond unhealthy. I do better with a bedtime around 9:30 p.m. or 10 p.m. at the latest. I know people will say to get 8 hours of rest and such, but I think many miss the time of it. For me, sleeping for 8 hours starting at, say, 1 a.m. or even 3 a.m., that's just not good. Also, because I don't like waking up past 8 a.m. That too throws me off and can produce issues for me. Shortly after my mom passed, I was lucky to drag myself out of bed before then. Didn't sleep, I'd wake a lot and struggle. I think much of that was still also being used to her calling me at 3 a.m. Yeah, it's been rare I've had a full, decent night of sleep in years at this point. Rare, I say, because I have had nights or weeks where I might. But for those who haven't followed me long or at all, I was my mom's caretaker. She was a narcissist, and I'm finding out potentially far worse. Worse? Subjective. Depends on the specifics of what she would do, I think, and to whom, etc. But she used to have issues with falls. Then wake me to come help her get back in bed, often around 3 a.m. And oh boy, do you not get 1 minute to breathe and wake up. Nope. Wake and come running. I'd get woozy doing that and have to sit down and take a second to breathe once she saw I was actually there. But it sometimes still didn't help. I'd get told all about how I'm selfish and always want my own needs first. Just hit me. Why I struggle to think that it's okay to have my needs met, I just realized. Anyway, her knees would often give out. She'd end up on the floor. Yes, she spoke to her doctors about it. Yes, she often told her doctors and complained of it, saying it was her knee as the biggest issue. I've had moments of that myself now, so I understand that sudden weakness. The thing that we both were incredibly amused by and frustrated by, though, about last year, I believe it was, she finally got some meds in the mail she'd been hoping for. Only, not entirely. Some of her meds were updated and refilled, but she'd been hoping for something for the falls and the knee issue. They sent her Narcan. I'm not kidding. She needed a pain med, and her doctor, who wouldn't listen, prescribed her something because he was convinced she was overdoing drugs or help her with passing out. She wasn't passing out there, Doc. As she said, her knee gave out. Because I'd be there at times, she went whoopsie, or didn't fully step right, and down she'd go. Not once loss of consciousness. I just can't. She rarely touched the oxy stuff she had because she couldn't handle it. Made her sick, so even that she halved. She needed a temporary pain med for her knee since she couldn't get in to get a pain shot, as high option medical care in the U.S. for her medical care allowed her to have it, pay for it, and not use it. It would cost $75 copay often to just walk in the door. That's not including the paid parking she had to incur if she wanted to be near the new place they put her hospital. Because, it was more convenient, or expensive and not convenient at all for anyone but their own pocketbooks. The place it was before had, I'm talking, blocks of parking all over and around the hospital, in and out of trees and forest area. You could enter the building anywhere to go in and simply have to navigate the hospital to get to the place you wanted. So it made it great if there was an appointment for a particular doctor where you could park near that place and walk straight in. Now it's you park in the paid parking if you want near the building, go into the main area, have to get checked in, then go in and navigate to where the space is. Just annoying. It felt so nice to go in the old hospital. Nearly every window was a view of trees. The new is cold, sterile, and crispy. The old hospital is what I envision often if I have to write something up around a hospital in work. I used that for, what was it? Oh, a mortal separation. When Lana has to go into the hospital, I see that in my mind. Doctor's office and hospital. Was that the one? Yeah, I think it was. Memory is fun. I've had a few moments of concern lately with that too. I'm sure sleep is the biggest cause of my mind acting up and stress. It's just that the depth of forgetfulness has been enough to make me go, huh. Things I shouldn't forget that easy. Things that are important. Not closing a window at night. That kind of important. Locking a front door. Distraction could be the cause too. With memory issues that run in the family though, I do have a pause right now. Alzheimer's, when I say memory issues. Not just family forgetting, but we have that as something in the family line. My mom certainly was beginning to get so bad, I was constantly afraid of her forgetting to pay a bill. As I'm learning, going through a lot of this paperwork and junk I sort through, it was apparently just a thing, too. She would often buy random items or things for other people while her own bills weren't being paid. It was something she often yelled at me for too, that she had no money and would have to beg, borrow, and steal just to keep the house going. When I tried to contribute, tell people I gave my work away for free, would never make a dime, and keep me so busy I barely had time to use the bathroom or work. Meanwhile, she would buy a barbecue for some random person that cost around $200 just because. Then would buy baby gifts and clothes for another quote-unquote friend and send stuff to cousins in other states that never sent her anything, and would turn around and complain they were begging for money from her because she quote-unquote lived in Seattle, so they believe I'm made of money. And quote-unquote, I told them I have to take care of my kids first, while buying tons of repeat cookbooks just because, or any multitudes of things like that. Right. Take care of your kids while never doing so. When we tried to help, too, it was yelling and screaming about trying to take over. Gets old. Gets tiresome. I'd seen something on Facebook that was so relevant and just, it hit the target. People always look at that one time, or a few times of the yelling and arguing. It's not that. It's not about that. It's not about saying no that time or a few times. It's the constant battle and depletion of energy to the point you finally give in because you cannot escape it. You can't. Leave, I hear people in my head. Right now, I want you to put everything down and leave your house. This instant. Do it. Walk out, never come back. Isn't it easy? I've had some even say it was hard, but they did. I asked, how old were you? Quote unquote, I was in my 20s. Cool. When I walked out, I was in my 20s too. When we're in our 20s, we are fueled by daredevil energy. Well, some or most of us. I was. I wanted out, and finally I had had enough. I'm out. I had 0 responsibilities but to self. 0 issues, and I had support and a father to live with. I also drove, had money to do as I pleased, and back then I didn't realize she would come that hardcore and relentless for me if I left. Constant calls and answering machine messages. No cell phones then. I think I had 8 calls at one point, back to back. I didn't answer, and that was a no-no. She'd leave messages saying this friend of a friend was talking about me, wanting to see me, wondering where I was. He wasn't. I promise. It was control, especially since she knew I kinda liked him, and he paid attention to me at times. This image on Facebook I saw described how a woman wore a shirt she liked, but that the husband clearly didn't. So he didn't just say, "Don't wear it," or "I don't like it." No, of course not. That's not how they work. He went around and about asking why she would wear it. And if she liked it, fine. In that tone. Then proceeded to consistently poke and prod around the shirt to the point he enlisted the son to help say it was ugly and essentially how she shouldn't wear such clothes. The roundabout, never fully direct sneak attack, enlisting others around to bully and harass to the point she went to reach for it one day and decided not to. It wasn't worth the belittling and constant poking. It drained the energy to the point she quit wearing the shirt at all, and I think even slowly began only wearing stuff approved of. That is a narcissist in a nutshell. It's not do what you like, wear what you like. They don't get to dictate what you wear. They don't. In that way, they just ensure that if you put that on, whether it be a few weeks, years, or 5, 10 years down the road, eventually that shirt, that one piece of fabric, will no longer be worth that effort for you, and you will shift away from it. Shift away from what you want to them. That is how I began to live my life. It's why I'm doing this. Why I struggle to know I'm allowed to have my own needs met. I'm allowed to be taken care of. I'm allowed a lot. Why I get irritated with people who believe I'm the opposite. Sure, I can be. That's not in question, because all of us can actually hold that weird belief that we should take care of self first. Even as I say that, though, I have this deep part of me that thinks I'm being such an a-hole to say that. No, you don't, Kim. That's incredibly selfish and idiotic. You shouldn't ever get anything you want. Back to Kendra. I'm finally at the point that if she wakes me in the middle of the night, I open the door, let her out, and just go back to bed. She wanders for a while, then finds food, and goes to sleep on the floor. I'm not sure if it's more comfortable for her, or she doesn't want to struggle even that tiny bit to crawl onto a pillow. It's rare I find her in a dog bed outside of Mila's now. That one I put her in at night in my room she doesn't stay in. That's one of the ones we got that benefited benefited the Humane Society upon purchase. It's just this simple donut style. Easy enough to climb in, even with her aching joints, but she doesn't seem to want it. Unless her little programming in her mind malfunctions and doesn't say, hey, we can climb in here to sleep, and should. There are a couple old human pillows on the floor in the living room that act as beds and a flatter style of dog bed. Still, she prefers Mila's bed. Her bed is a large circular one that's, 4 inches thick. It belonged to my Australian Shepherd. Apologies for the background sound. This is about time of night Chewbacca wants to start his whining for a while. He gets really fussy. Even if I move him, he'll start up. If he gets bad, I'll have to pause. I would leave my bedroom door open at night, but the last thing I want is all the dogs coming and going and fussing at stuff while I'm trying to sleep, or bother my older brother when he comes up in the early morning hours to get something to eat in the kitchen. They'd love to do that, I'm sure. He doesn't like them under his feet when he's walking around, and they're not used to him being around like he has been since my mom passed. So he's having to establish those boundaries. I try to explain to him they know to stay out of the kitchen when someone is in there cooking or making food. But you have to tell them out and make sure they listen. I clap my hands and say it, and they're all, fine, we're going. Anyone who has owned a Shih Tzu knows the training with them. They're stubborn and like cats. Oh, you can teach them a lot, and they're very intelligent. To the point they'll decide whether to listen or not, and whether it benefits them to. So yeah, my dogs are trained, as every dog has been I've had since I got into dog training as a young girl with my first German Shepherd, Jake. It's just, these are royalty, and they will only do as the servant commands when it's beneficial. I actually think Kendra kind of likes it anyway to be let out like that. No, she might not like being technically locked away for a few hours from us in terms of locked away, because during the day she may come and check on us and then leave the room and go back to mine again. She has the option then. It's more that I have noticed she doesn't want to be around us as much now. Chewbacca is the opposite. If he senses I'm out of the room for long, that's when he gets antsy and fusses. He doesn't want to be away from us at all. His appetite comes and goes now, I'm seeing. One day, like yesterday I think it was, or day prior, he ended up eating quite a bit. The canned meat I gave him, thank you again to our neighbor for that. He would eat almost the entire plate each time I gave it to him. Today, it's now 4 p.m. and he hasn't eaten. I will be giving him the caloric supplement around 5 or so when I make my own dinner, just to be sure he's got those extra calories. It's also got vitamins in it. The one I'm using, however you pronounce it, is Dyne Calorie Supplement, DYNE. It smells like cake or vanilla shake. Vanilla frosting even. It helps make them smell good after. It could be nauseating for some, I imagine. The mind would associate it with a sick dog potentially. I used to use the malted supplement many of you may know and have grown up around if you have had dogs. The Tomlin Nutristat one. Both of these are linked on my blog post if you're curious, or just look them up. That is funky smelling. Also a good one to use. The brand is obviously not the same as old, but that's the same stuff. I've kept onto it for years and used it for a cat who'd gotten some sort of sickness and wouldn't eat for a week. She didn't like it, I didn't like it, but she got better and recovered because of it, so... Chewbacca isn't always as cooperative when I give him the supplement. It's why I thought I'd try that vanilla one. The flavor, but it's looser and I can use a needleless syringe to ease it into the back of his mouth and squeeze a little for him to suck up. He was okay with it a few weeks ago, but now he's just not always as cooperative, so I try not to force it too bad. I know he's getting close to that point, so I'm not going to just jam that stuff in his mouth. He's getting enough to eat for where he's at. He isn't losing weight still, and he sleeps more and more. I have 2 different friends who offered to pay for him and Kendra to help my brother and I, him especially, though it may be her going first, we'll see. And I've been considering that. Maybe one can help with one, the other with the other. Because, most of us don't want them to go naturally if we can help it. More so if we know they're unhappy or not living their life right. He can still move, Kendra can. That's the biggest thing that for me is always that point I say I have to say goodbye. When they can no longer even get up and use the bathroom themselves, eat, drink. But I mean, it's our pet, our family. I don't want to force them to stick around longer out of selfishness. But how do you say goodbye to a family member that easy? So I know I talk about them, and if someone is new, they may go, "Don't be selfish," or a million other critiques. But every thought, every word, every moment, I am always with that in the back of my mind. Now? How about now? My brother tried to call vets and see if anyone would have sympathy. The shelters, too. See if having to do 2 at once, they'd be like, "We want to help. We will." They all want hundreds. Imagine wanting to do the right thing with a pet, and even a vet is like, "Well, we can't help with that. So sorry." Financing it wouldn't help because, credit isn't money. You still need the money to pay that off. Why I'm thinking maybe for this even, we should lean on the friends who want to help. It's why I have that donation form at the bottom of everything I do. Every donation is going toward our lights and water, but it's also going toward the dogs and their care. I haven't used anything I've received in a donation for self. The only thing I've bought for myself was stuff for brushing my teeth and coffee. Yikes! Super selfish. It also wasn't money from donations. I do also have an Amazon link in the description area for YouTube. I'll probably add it to the donation area on my blogs now too, for tangible items needed. Guts to love the economy we're in. People griping about beggars. "Oh, I'm sorry the peasants are so bothersome to you, my lord. That must be incredibly difficult that people need help keeping heat on in the winter and food in their belly." I don't even eat lunch right now to save food because we usually have so little. Damn peasants, get out of here with your dirty nonsense. Be gone with yourself. I should not have to see you and know that you exist and face that filthy, filthy, horrible people who need that thing called help and are suffering in this economy. Horrible, horrible. Rant over. I just get so freaking irritated. That is the poor people are lazy beliefs that have been pushed when those often poor are the ones working their butts off to keep lights on for others, or working every single minute of the day to earn pennies. A kid, I'm thinking young adult, not young, now just has to go online and stream a game to make money. How grateful do you think his parents are for that man or woman out there spending all day working their butt off to ensure they have electricity and everything else? The factory workers who built the machine and controllers he uses. The farmers who grew the food. Those coal miners who spent years working their tail off. Of the oil drillers, deep-sea fishermen working dangerously for the fish they bring in. Being able to not think twice about always having running water, electricity, being able to shower multiple times in a single day, being able to get online in an instant. I sound old. Well, back in my day, Sonny, we didn't even have the internet. I just often think about how little gratitude is shown to those people who work their butts off and at the end of the day may still need to go to church for help or food because of this beautiful economy we've had for years. When I think about it and have first-hand knowledge of those struggles, it can frustrate me. Why I am working my bum off now to finally, I pray, reach financial freedom. In my case, it'll come with your help too, since it's around my writing I want to do it most. This, what I'm doing now, my fiction I have up for sale. Yes, 53 stories, people. All on major retailers. Can't do the rest on paperbacks or all on hardbound until I can earn enough. Hint, hint. I once asked a question too. Instead of raising prices to fix things, why doesn't the cost of living go down instead? Why don't people work on that? Lowering the cost for everything. And yes, I fully acknowledge that it is a huge task compared to upping prices on stuff. Still, I never got an answer to that question. Never when I've asked that. So I ask that for any of you smarter than I am. Why don't they lower the cost of living overall? The cost of everything, instead of continuing to go up? Obvious answer, it benefits them more. Still, I had a post that I actually wanted to write up a few days ago, but that went completely out of my head. Also have topic ideas I have a list of, but today I simply started on a thought and ended here, as sometimes I might. So hey, nice that you kept reading, or listening in this case. Big, fat, squishy hug to you. As always, too, don't forget that I'm happy to share any of your stories. If you're not a writer, author, or just don't want the recognition it's you, then please, if you share, tell me so. I'd be happy to say you're anonymous. Share a story, poem, something you wrote, tale of old, recipe from family, and a story around that. Anything goes, short of vulgar and too graphic that obviously might get me kicked off a platform. Thank you ahead of time for not sharing those types. Email me at stories2read@KimberlySueIverson.com. More to come. Thank you for reading and subscribing, or listening in this case. I know how valuable your time is, so it means so much that you're here, and I'm beyond grateful you chose to spend this time with me. What are your thoughts? Engage with me and start a conversation. Just don't be rude about it. If you'd like a chance for your story to be read and featured, get in touch at stories2read@KimberlySueIverson.com. A new episode and blog is dropped every Wednesday on KimberlySueIverson.com or on YouTube under Kimber Bites. That's KimberBites, Kimber Bites. And don't forget to check out my Ream subscription page. Another chapter is up. I am releasing Guardians of the Void chapter by chapter over on Ream right now. I will be releasing my Priestess World as well soon, long before the public gets the books. You'll be able to read the chapters as I write them and help with the world. You'll get to read extra scenes that may not make the cut either. This is still being thought out on how I will, so they haven't been posted yet, but stay tuned. Also, that world is still in progress, but I have written almost 3 books. I'm nearing the end of the 3rd one. That's the one that when you follow me on social media, if you see the updates, that's the one it's about. If I actually do some writing and get all excited, that's typically the world I'm writing in. So check out reamstories.com/KimberlySueIverson. That's reamstories.com/KimberlySueIverson. reamstories.com/KimberlySueIverson. That link also will be in the description box below, unless I completely forget to add it, at which point you can remind me.